Hello everyone, and welcome to our final Seekers session of 2021. I hope you're having a great weekend. Tonight we're going to be talking about hope, which Emily Dickinson called the thing with feathers. It's that irrepressible, mysterious power that rises up in us even in the most difficult situations and buoys us through our darkest hours, even when there's no rational reason for hope to exist. Hope like this doesn't depend on fixed outcomes, but instead it rests on the spirit of life itself to carry you forward, to lift you up, to give you a vision of how to move ahead beyond whatever it is that is challenging you. Hope has a mythological power, a metaphorical power. It represents the uncanny, irrepressible energy in a person that is nothing less than the life force itself. Hope reminds us that life perseveres, that we persevere, and that nearly all human beings, no matter how flawed we might be, have heroic dimensions. Because it's heroic to face a human existence day after day, with all the losses, uncertainties, the suffering that comes, along with the joys and the triumphs. It takes a hero to say yes to living with all that we know, moment to moment, and all that we will never know. This internal fortitude just won't be drowned out, not completely, even when the odds are against us. The Spaniards called this quality grinta. It's like grit or determination or resolve. Grinta is that tough but tender part of a person that acknowledges pain but won't give up, refuses to stay down. Many years ago in London at the Tate Gallery, I came across a painting that moved me so much, and it has to do with this question of hope. It was an 1886 canvas by George Frederick Watts of the allegorical figure of hope, but she wasn't depicted as some victorious goddess holding a flame like the Statue of Liberty, reminding us that she springs eternal. Instead, hope was shown as a blindfolded woman sitting barefoot, holding a harp that has only one string. Isn't that powerful? The blindfold, the harp with only one string. Because that's how life feels sometimes, as if we've been blindfolded and left in the dark, and equipped with only a single instrument with one sound, one prayer. Please let this pass. Please bring the light back. Please let this thing that has blocked the sun pass away and give me my sight back. Because souls survive on hope in the absence of physical evidence. It's not the naive hope that everything is going to be just great, like they were before we lost whatever it is that we cared about. But rather the hope that ensures us when we can't find our way that this moment will not last forever. That what we've lost will bring something new, that there's a hidden face to this moment. Spiritual hope makes space in the shrinking mind for all that has yet to be revealed. Hope reminds us to be open to change, to welcome whatever comes to pass. It's the chink in our certainty that allows the light to come in. A metaphysical force that we don't control, but guides us toward our next destination. The poet Stan Rice put this very beautifully in one of his poems. He writes, "I was lost and sang my broken down song in the hell of the hour. Then in my heart moved an oar, and I was found by a breeze from a door in the sea of forms. And I was rowed to the cherry trees on the shore. Selah, Selah." Isn't that beautiful? I was lost and sang my broken down song in the hell of the hour. Then in my heart moved an oar, and I was found by a breeze from a door in the sea of forms, and I was rowed to the cherry trees on the shore. Selah, Selah. Whatever we can do to catch that breeze and allow it to guide us makes us more adaptable and more resilient. It preserves the will to go on. But fixated hope, as we've said many times before in the Seekers Forum, is a problem. When we attach ourselves to a single outcome, it's very easy to become the hostage of hope, to imprison ourselves in optimism and get trapped by an inflexible craving for a single result. Hope like that is sure to bring disappointment. It can lead to becoming consumed by longing and obsessed with all the things that we don't have, unhappy with what life has chosen for us. Now, there are spiritual teachers who suggest that hope itself is a cause of suffering. As Pema Chodron puts it, quote, "If hope and fear are two sides of the same coin, then so are hopelessness and confidence." Pema tells us that only by discovering ease with uncertainty, poise amidst shakiness, and learning to stay with a broken heart, can we be truly happy. As she puts it, in a world of hope and fear, we always have to change what is. But when we allow ourselves to feel uncertainty, disappointment, shock, embarrassment, we discover a mind that is clear, unbiased, and fresh. Let me just repeat that last piece. In a world of hope and fear, we always have to change what is. But when we allow ourselves to feel uncertainty, disappointment, shock, embarrassment, we discover a mind that is clear, unbiased, and fresh. Now, Pema is right, of course. But this teaching is also idealistic, because hope and fear are part of our survival repertoire. They both serve a purpose in helping us to awaken. Hope within reason is, in fact, a form of adaptive genius, provided that it doesn't deny the reality of things as they are. As Emerson put it, we judge of a man's wisdom by his hope. In fact, Emerson's godson, William James, agreed that life without hope is unbearable. As James put it, quote, "The human mind and emotions are not made for this pessimistic philosophy and cannot live in sanity and health with it. It is only through hope, a reasoned optimism, that a person can keep the iron bands of negative thinking from pinching beyond endurance." Unquote. And that's exactly how it feels. When we're hopeless, it feels like there's a metal band around our head that's just shrinking us down and begins to pinch beyond endurance. There's something in psychology called the Stockdale paradox that addresses this kind of hope that we're talking about. It's in fact named for a Vietnam vet, James Stockdale, who was a POW and conceived of a way to maintain hope even when the cards are stacked against you. According to the Stockdale paradox, an individual must maintain unwavering faith that she can prevail while simultaneously confronting the most brutal facts of her current reality, however overwhelming they might seem. So, an unwavering faith that one can prevail without denying any of the facts of one's current reality, even when they seem overwhelming. That's the Stockdale paradox. There's nothing false about this kind of hope. False hope is a recipe for suffering. False hope leads to intemperate choices, to flawed decision-making, while true hope takes into account the very real threats that exist and seeks to navigate the best path around them. You can think of this as tough hope. Tough hope. It's hope that confronts what is. Just as tough love is recommended when people are facing addictions, meaning saying no when it's necessary, not falling prey to sentimentality. Tough hope tells it like it is without resorting to make-believe. It inspires us by telling the truth and reconnecting us to our spirit. Because the nature of the spirit is to rise. It's to become elevated. In psychology, there's a name for this phenomenon. They call it elevation. And it's a new emotion that was discovered relatively recently in the last few decades. And they found that elevation is essential to human flourishing. Elevation works through a miraculous part of the human being called the mirror neuron system that many of you have probably heard about. Mirror neurons are the cells in the brain that enable us to be inspired by what we perceive. Elevation is a self-transcending emotion like awe, like admiration. It's through observing goodness, courage, truth, beauty, wisdom that we are elevated. The mere act of witnessing character and hopelessness tickles the vagus nerve, apparently, which stimulates oxytocin production and evokes in us, among other empathic kinds of behavior, the desire to be better people living better lives. And that explains the power of someone like Barack Obama with his message of hope that got him elected against all odds. I'm convinced that without that word hope in his message, Barack Obama would never have won. People like Obama, like Oprah Winfrey, like Jane Goodall, Nelson Mandela, these people are known as vagal superstars amongst neuroscientists because of their outsized ability to inspire multitudes to believe in a greater vision, not of these people, not of these famous people, but of themselves. The hopefulness that they inspire literally elevates the mind. Studies show that individuals with high vagus nerve activity and more oxytocin are better at handling stress, better at building community, coping with bereavement, and breaking up conflict, all of which are powerful causes for hope in themselves. Less stress, more community, easier bereavement, less conflict. Isn't that what we all pray for in moments when we're feeling hopeless? Spiritually speaking, we owe it to one another to be arbiters of possibility and awakening. In this sense, as Barack Obama always said, we are our brother's keeper. As fellow journeymen, we mirror the way ahead by modeling hope in whatever ways we're able to. But this only happens through authenticity. We can't fake our way to elevation. The near enemy of genuine hope is what's known as toxic positivity. That fake, smiley-faced optimism. The forced smile. The disingenuous thumbs up. Hope like that, in fact, often does more harm than good. It can be destructive and be very alienating, this toxic positivity. Years ago, I was working in hospice, and I was putting on a mask to go into a room with a guy who had active TB. And there was a fellow standing nearby who was part of a New Age group that was characterized by this kind of toxic positivity. And he said to me, "What are you doing? Why are you putting on a mask?" I said, "The guy has active TB." And he looks at me with a straight face and says, "Don't you know no one can give you anything that you don't want?" It's that kind of toxic positivity that shuts us down, that alienates us, that makes it impossible for us to be with what is. Toxic positivity is characterized by inauthenticity. It's characterized by the intolerance of suffering, as well as a denial of the psychological shadow where truth and vulnerability actually live. Our last president of the United States was diagnosed as a toxic optimist by well-known psychologists because of his pathological ability to cut himself off from feeling, to deny reality, to reject all information that contradicted his single-minded ambition to prevail. In times of trouble especially, it's very possible to fall prey to this kind of put-on hopefulness. When the last president claimed that COVID-19 was nothing to worry about, for example, millions of people latched onto this lie and made it into a battle cry of denial, with devastating results, at the very moment when we needed to band together around the facts. And this is a particularly American phenomenon. It's part of our grandiosity, this adolescent callowness of a nation that was reared on the myth of its own singularity and its position as the bright city on the hill. The author Barbara Ehrenreich talks about toxic positivity eloquently in a book she wrote called Bright-Sighted: How Positive Thinking is Undermining America. And she discusses how when she was first diagnosed with breast cancer, she was horrified by the barrage of pink ribbons and forced positivity that she felt left little hope for a woman's real experience. And this is what she writes, quote, "I got so angry when I encountered the pink ribbon cult. There is an entire industry selling pink teddy bears, cosmetics, and pink ribbon brooches. I was repeatedly told to think happy thoughts, but all I could feel was rage. I was furious for not being able to talk about the role environmental pollution plays in the cancer epidemic. The fact that I wasn't able to find an online forum in which I could express anything other than positive thinking made me ever more angry and frustrated. Then she concludes by saying there is a vast difference between positive thinking and existential courage. So let's just think about this for a moment. What's the difference between positive thinking and existential courage? Positive thinking is a willed determination to shut out negative information in order to achieve a desired goal. Whether it's the battle with cancer or winning the presidency, the principle is the same. It's worth remembering that our former commander-in-chief credited Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, with being his greatest influence growing up. Positive thinking is the ego's attempt to manipulate the unknown through mind control and denial, which is what Peale has been accused of, criticized for ever since. But existential courage is something else. It's the Stockdale paradox that acknowledges exactly how dangerous things are without giving up the power to do what we can. Spiritual hope, linked to existential courage, always arises from present moment awareness. It's not pie in the sky. It includes all eventualities. It's not a fantasy. And it's always open to the unknown. Even when tomorrow is scary and when outward conditions are unlikely to change, there's still the hope that's inherent in the seeker's life, which is the hope of waking up through whatever comes your way. Spiritual practice teaches you that outward challenge can lead to inner growth, that suffering can be used for enlightenment, that whatever happens can be beneficial and bring in new insight. Speaking for myself, I can honestly say that this realization, this single realization, is what turned my hopeless worldview upside down. It meant that there was hope no matter what happened to a person, because hope was connected to healing, and healing could come from anywhere. Healing didn't require a cure or things working out just the way I wanted them to. Healing is deeper than that. It implies wholeness, integrity, self-realization. And that turns the depressive worldview upside down. At the end of the day, nothing short of spiritual awakening, the possibility of awakening, is strong enough in our darkest times to move our boat toward the cherry trees on the shore. The chance to explore essential questions about who you are, what really matters, what you believe in, what remains possible, has the power that no external pursuit or goal contains to carry you through the most daunting of challenges. We learn as seekers to derive our hope from the promise that enlightenment is possible here in this body through earnestness and deliberate attention. It's the promise that the brain is wired for more than we know, that freedom, compassion, and happiness are bound to increase if we pay attention to our spiritual life, both personally and collectively. Knowing that awakening is possible, that there's more between heaven and earth than is dreamt of in our philosophy, to quote Shakespeare, is our stay against hopelessness and despair. It's the awareness that existence is forever mysterious, that these bodies and minds are a fraction of what we are, and that elevation is possible for all of us when we take the time to pay attention, to glean insight from our experience, and to step beyond the mind stream of the tiny little selfish me. That's what enables us to be fully present and to remember the epiphany of just being here, which is where spiritual hope always comes from. So that's what I wanted to say to you today about hope. And now we're going to do some writing together. I'd like you please to take 15 minutes to write about the areas of your life where you feel hopeless. Are there areas where you feel hopeless? And how can this be changed with a spiritual perspective? Be as specific as you can be, please. We'll take 15 minutes, and then we'll come back together as a group.